Greetings, family. Sister Shanice in the house. Welcome, welcome to the Sister Shanice Show platform. It is a pleasure and an honor, as always, to be able to come before you today. What an interesting and exciting program we have lined up for you, as always. And I've got my special guest in the background, none other than Ayo Kimani, who is back by popular demand. And as always, he has a really interesting show lined up for us. Irritated Genie, I mean, he's just so good. He's a great, one of our great freedom fighters, one of our great analysts and Pan-Africanist. He's an educator. And he has a revolutionary spirit that has come, I'm sure, from our ancestors themselves. And so it's always a joy, and always a pleasure to be able to hear from such a great, wise member of our community. So I'm just going to grab the link there and start posting the link in the background to let our family know that we are live and what the link is. So when I look down, that's because I'm actually, posting the link. No, I'm not falling asleep. Okay, family. So really excited. As always, we've got an interesting show lined up. Our brother Ayo Kamani, also known as Irritated Genie, is going to be talking today about the UK Parliament's Homophile imposition on Africa. Yes, I mean, those of us who are in the UK will know only too well, how high on the priority the LGBTQ plus agenda actually is. I mean, right now, based on the debates that they're having in Parliament, it seems to be higher on the agenda in terms of the action that they want to take than, the issue in Palestine. I mean, you're going to hear, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Uganda. We're going to be talking about the debate that they had in the Houses of Parliament. And you will get to see from that debate and that discussion that they are very seriously concerned about the legislation in Uganda that deals with the LGBTQ matter. And so, we're going to be having that conversation because, is it Britain's place to be dictating to Africa what their policies and what their priorities and what their conduct ought to be to certain groups of society that they, may not recognize in the same way that Britain does? And, is it really the place of Britain to impose its culture and what it considers to be its norms on other groups and other nations who have a totally different culture than their own? So we're going to be having this conversation today. And although we're going to be focusing on Uganda, as we know, it's not just Uganda who's under the cosh in terms of, Britain's position on this. There are a number of African countries as well who, have been pressured, really, who've been under a lot of pressure to kind of swing the way that Britain wants them to on this whole agenda. So we're going to be talking about that with our beloved brother, Ayo Kimani, Irritated Genie. So looking forward to that. He'll be joining us in a few minutes' time. And so as you come in through the door, please let me know that you're in the house. Give me a thumbs up. Let us know where in the world you're actually viewing us from. Yes, I know my channel is being shadow banned and it's probably not coming up in your feed. And you have to do that little bit extra just to be able to get my shows. Don't let that put you off. Don't pay any attention to the numbers either, because when I go behind the scenes after the shows, I see that hundreds of you have actually been watching, but that's not reflected, as I said, in the live. So no watch nothing. Okay, we're here for the the works. Talking about the works, family, I want to rise up those of you who have already downloaded my book, the tribute book that I wrote to Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Yes, I've written a tribute handbook. And it's a tribute, as I said, to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, our great visionary and revolutionary leader. And this is the sort of handbook that needs to be in the pocket of every single one of our young people. And I feel so passionately about this because, you know, Marcus Garvey was one of those freedom fighters and with a revolutionary mindset and such a clear thinker who, you know, impacted me in my early years. And so because he impacted me so much and because, you know, he helped to direct, you know, my outlook on life, which I feel is an outlook that makes me see through and beyond and behind and underneath what needs to be seen. All of our young people need to get the works of this visionary and get the mind of this visionary. So this book that I've done is available free of charge, okay? All you need to do to get it is to go to Gumroad, Sister Shanice, .gumroad.com. Sister is spelled with a Sista, Shanice.gumroad.com. Go there, go to the checkout, and where it's got the pound sign or the dollar sign, just put 0 and you can download it free of charge. If you want to, you know, put some digits there, $5, $10, $50, $100, whatever you want. If you want to send me a gift, then of course, you know, it would be much appreciated and it will contribute towards the works that I'm doing. So thank you all so much in advance. All of you who have already downloaded the book, now you've downloaded it, read it, and please, you know, do a review. Go back to sistershanice.gumroad.com and do a review. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think about the book. I've already printed 100 copies and I've already started distributing them to young people on the continent, and I hope to be able to continue to do so. And, you know, my desire is that it will contribute towards bringing about a generation, a new generation of great thinkers. And I want to rise up, our brother, Nusi from the Congo, our Congo leopard brother. He's actually translated that book for me in Kigali. He's translated it for me, and I've already started formatting it. And so quite soon, you know, that's going to be ready for an entire new population as well, who may in the past, you know, have not read anything about Marcus Mosiah Garvey because it's not in their language. So I'm really excited about the vision and the wisdom that they are going to be getting from having read that book. And as you can see, my guest is in the house, Brother Ayo Kimani, also known as Irritated Genie. Rise up, beloved. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I can see that my video is sticking a little bit. You know, apologies to everybody who's watching, but I hope it doesn't get in the way of your viewing. So, Brother Ayo Kimani, please tell us, how have you been since the last time that you were on our show?
I've been doing well. Had a great response. People were happy to hear from it. They enjoyed it. They appreciated it. And so it's just been a positive environment. And it's actually put me in a space where I'm talking to a lot of different people around the world because people saw that and it really moved them in a different way. So it's been very good.
Fantastic. That's great news. I mean, we had a similar response here as well. I mean, if you look at the comments that were under the video and people were commenting and sending me messages directly as well, you know, they were calling for you to come back. So they are, you know, delighted, I'm sure, that you are in the house today. So I was just telling people about my handbook to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and as the family can see, there's another book of mine that I'm promoting right here, the achievements and accomplishments of our people during ancient times. So important, because most of us will go through school, college, and university and not learn anything about the greatness of our people. And so we can't expect the mainstream to be telling our people. We are the ones who are going to have to be doing that work. Hence why, you know, I wrote that book. So go and get that on Amazon, family. It's a great one, again, for the young people, written with the young people in mind. Now, I know you're also an author, aren't you, Brother Io? Do you want to tell the family about your book that you've written and where it's they can get hold of it?
Sure. So I have two books, and I'm actually finished the third book. Haven't had it edited and published and printed yet. But the first book, War on the Horizon, Black Resistance to the Homophile Assault. Let me see if I can put this up right here. Can everybody see that? Let me see. Oh, you know what?
I mean, yeah, there it is. Up a little bit.
Okay, so here it is here.
Uh,
It's War on the Horizon, Black Resistance to the Homophile Assault. And then we have my second book right here, speaks for itself, what the real problem is that we're dealing with. And there's some overlap in both of the books. Yeah. Yes, you can get it at waronthehorizon.com. You can go to waronthehorizon.com. Or if you want the second book, this book here, then you can go to moneytreepublishing.com internationally. Or you can get the audio book. Again, you can go to waronthehorizon.com.
waronthehorizon.com. Do post that in the chat as well, if you can. I want to welcome those who are already commenting in the chat. Great to have you on board. And let's see, we've got is that you got Ripoff in the house? We've got my brother Mahogany in the house saying shalom, family. Rise up, Gregory in the house as well, giving us a big hotep all the way from Las Vegas. We've got Von Nessa in the house as well. Straight Black Pride, Black at you. We've got Kwame Aboche. Rise up, brother Kwame in the house. Dee's in the house. It's the Verna from the UK in the house. Woo! We've got Mondele Moibi in the house as well, saying Yengelumbu Kiambote, Sister Shanice. High salute from your Pan-Africanist brother, the Congo leopard. Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for the information that you've been sending me. We have our Congo leopard in the house. And you know that there was an attempted coup in the Congo, don't you? Sunday night. Woo! So I just can't wait to touch on that as well. We've got Brenda in the house. Greeting. Gerald's in the house. Betty's in the house. Issue is in the house. Come on, family. We need you all to be coming through the door and letting us know that you are there. Before we start, as I wait for our family to come through the doors, I just want to let the family know where I'm going to be this, some say weekend, you know, but I say strong end. Well, this strong end family, as you know, up and down the globe, wherever we are as a people, we are celebrating African Liberation Day. Most of the celebrations in the UK here start on the 25th, and then we celebrate on the 26th and 27th. That's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And this year in the UK, it's the 50th anniversary of African Liberation Day here in the UK. And we have major events, and guests are invited to come and talk from a revolutionary Pan-Africanist perspective. And the event that I'm going to be at, let me tell you, family, get your pens ready, get your pens ready. There's a big giveaway happening, a big giveaway, because it's all about us as a family coming together. And the organizers of this event are giving away 200 free tickets for the 3-day event. Yeah, usually, you know, it's £15 per ticket, but because they want you in the house, They're giving away 200 free tickets and then 200 half-price tickets. Now, I normally, when I'm in the UK, go to these events. I'll book into a hotel. I'll be there for the whole 3 days. It's absolutely fantastic. You know, the place will be packed with African market stalls, and there's music, there's entertainment, there's networking. There's just that great buzz and vibe that's going on over the 3 days. And of course, you've got edutainment, you've got the speakers, you've got the workshops, exhibitions. It's all going on. And family, I am privileged and honored to be one of the speakers at the event. But let me tell you who some of the other speakers are that are going to be speaking at that event. Okay, so we have a brother called Professor Cecil Gutsmore, who's going to be speaking, and he's going to be talking about the history of the struggles of Haiti, the revolution, and the historical crisis and making of the current situation. We've also got Kwame Anani, who's one of the main organizers as well, who's going to be speaking of the event about from an African Caribbean geography perspective. He's going to be talking about its rich natural resources, the mining, the marketing, you know, and its own natural minerals and resources that need investigating. We've got Brother Emmanuel who's going to be speaking, and I'm privileged to be one of the guest speakers as well. I'm going to be speaking about the revolutionary Pan-Africanist development and progress in countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Really excited to that, and I've added Senegal to my list as well. So we're going to be looking at, you know, the expulsion that's been happening of France and, you know, their approach now to try and rid themselves of that colonial yoke that has been round the necks of these former colonies of the French. And so really excited about that. The good news is that my one will be a live stream. And so as soon as I get the information and the links for that live stream, I'll post it on my YouTube channel, okay? So make sure you go to my YouTube channel to get that link. I'm going to be presenting on Sunday, okay? There's other presenters, like most of you might know, Vasco Stevenson, great holistic healer, and very much into the new technologies and digital currencies. And we've also got Robin Walker, one of our great history men here in the UK. He's going to be speaking. What's he going to be speaking of? He's going to be talking about the history of Africans in science and technology, Asian and modern, one of my favorite topics, hence, you know, the book that I've written there and the follow-up that I've got coming as well. So lots happening this strong end. And if you know, family, of any events that is happening, any African Liberation Day events that's happening, feel welcome to post it in the chat, okay? Post it in the chat, share the news, share the information. I'm very happy. I don't have any problems for you to post information about events that you've got coming up or businesses, Black businesses that you think we should support. You know, I'm unable to kind of monitor what's going on in the chat at the same time. I certainly won't be hiding any messages or deleting any unless something jumps out at me as being really offensive. So feel welcome to post information in the chat, okay? So, yes, oh my gosh, Brother Ayo Kimani. I mean, what are people in America saying about the recent coup attempt in the DRC? Who are they saying is behind it?
You know, from what we understand, there was a guy who actually had tried. Well, he's gone now, so but a guy who was down in Texas, and he had actually tried to do this before. So this wasn't his first merry-go-round. This wasn't his first try at it. And now he's gone, which is good. But now they got a white guy that was working to help him do it, and they were holding him. So we don't know what the status is of that. But pretty much we're all trying to figure out, because what we want to know, we don't know, is this somebody that was trying to overthrow the government? People are speculating that it's part of the CIA, Mossad type of operation system to get access to the Congo, while there seems to be some kind of things happening in the Congo to try to get some kind of balance. All of a sudden, they're trying to jump in there and get something. And what we all, the universal agreement is good that they got rid of the guy. because we can't imagine that he could be good going over there with some white guy trying to. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this on my radio show earlier today. Actually, it's still a bit of a hot topic here in the UK, and so yeah, we are of the same view. There is a kind of wave, isn't there, of coup that's been happening, and you know, the citizens and the populations have got behind these coups because, you know, of the suffering, the impoverishments that they've been experiencing, and so, you know, there's been these few revolutionary coups, and so yeah, we are going to get the CIA and others who organize armies and their men, you know, to try and, you know, do a coup in order to give the impression that, you know, it's a revolutionary one. So here was this young man by the name of Christian Malanga, wearing his red beret and his army fatigue, like you say, with some white guy, another, and his mixed race son was in there as well. And this particular individual, you know, as you said, he's well known in America. He was trained by the American army, you know, and yeah, he got killed along with a couple of other people in his attempt to try and take over the government of Kinshasa. Now, this is a man who's been knighted, so he has the Order of St. Paul's. So he's very high up in the echelons of society, because not everybody and anybody gets knighted. He's also believed to be a very wealthy businessman. He's a known politician. He's, as you said, he tried to do a coup before. And at one time, he was actually a military captain in the Congolese army. So he's a military captain in the Congolese army, a wealthy businessman, well connected. You know, there's the picture that I've got of him. Thank you, Brother Nursi, in his, you know, what do you call it, in the regalia of these, you know, these satanic type circles where they give our people, like they gave Nelson Mandela, you know, that black gown with all of the regalia. So he's in there, he's been knighted by them. So he's very much one of their men. And, you know, yeah, he was in the US where he'd secured political asylum. And from there in the US, he'd been campaigning, you know, to try and get a position as a very high up position, or to run as opposition in Congo. But yeah, definitely had ulterior motives. But this coup attempt went dreadfully wrong, didn't it? We were speculating as to what could have gone wrong, because although they had a team of about 50 of them that had gone in with the intention of taking over, you know, they were so confident that they were streaming the coup live on Facebook. You know, there's pictures all over Twitter and everything about it. So they were so confident. And there was someone with an English accent as well speaking into the camera. There was American accents in there. People were English spoken as well as speaking the local language in French. So this is definitely one that I want to say a lot more about, but not right now. So I think we've given our family enough time to come through the door. Let us know what your thoughts are on that attempted coup. Yes, you'd like to come back.
I just want you to say one thing. I just got to say it. The good thing is he's where he's supposed to be now. So the one that was leading it, he's in the place he's supposed to be. And if there were 50 of them, it'd be nice if 50 of them find that place. I think it's very important, because what's happening now, and I'm gonna say this in regard, because it goes right into what we're gonna be talking about today. I didn't intend to bring it up, but I'll bring it up. There's no reason not to bring it up. There's a Ugandan who, no matter what a person thinks about Uganda, I know that there's some issues that people have politically with what's going on in the Congo. I get that. But this person wasn't interested in that. This was last year, and I confronted it. Some people saw the video. They didn't see this part of it because I didn't film this part of it. But there's a guy from Uganda in the US that was in Daniel's event. And in the event, he was asking the US government to help overthrow Museveni and unseat Museveni. And they were It was Ron Daniels' event. And I asked the question, look, Pan-Africanism, the position is supposed to be against homosexuality. What is our position against it? And Ron Daniels came up and said, we totally support it. And he's right there with this other person on the stage from Uganda requesting the overthrow of a sovereign nation. Now, that's going to be relevant to what we're going to show in a little bit. And I'm bringing it up because we it's time, we can't just let Mobutu reign free. I'm very proud of the Congolese for, if none of the rest, if 49 of them walk, the one that headed, the chief Mobutu, you got to take that head. You got to send messages because it's not just Congo, it's Africa. So it's not just Africa, it's Haiti. We got General Barbecue down there. We don't want any Black authentic leadership to be targeted. And if somebody thinks about it, we want them to know when you lose, you're going to lose your head. And it's important that we send that message, and that I shouldn't be here dissatisfied that it happened that way. Once you explain who he is and what he was about, good, he got exactly what he deserved, and we want the rest of them to get that. And we got to be bold about the fact this is what we want. Protect our leadership. We got to protect them.
Absolutely. We don't want imposters, people coming in who talk a good talk, a great revolutionary talk, President Ruto, but in terms of their policies and their actions, hey, supporting the homo agenda, supporting, the mass, of all of their people, it's just, totally unacceptable. And so, they need to be exposed for who they really are, and we can see through them as well.
They need to be exposed, and he's a body now. And that's what he's supposed to be, a body gone. I don't want any more. No more Mobutus that we can say, look at him, that's Mobutu. No, they don't look at him, that's Mobutu. We got to be looking at old videos. That was the guy that was trying to do something to undermine African liberation. That's who he was, if we even remember these people.
Yeah, for real. Some hard talk there, family, but, we know the consequences only too well. When some of these old puppets, get in position of power, they are held there and protected there for decades, and the people suffer for decades. And Congo has suffered enough. Congo has definitely suffered enough. And this man was so well connected. In fact, his father was also a soldier with connections in the DRC among the former bigwigs as well. In Zaire. So, his father was connected to Mobutu, they were, his mixed race son, who we saw on those video clips as well in the coup d'etat. So, father, son, and there he was in there, and he was obviously determined to take over rather than give himself up, hence why he ended up dying. And of course, we saw him dead on the ground in those videos as well. But wow, the Congolese army didn't run. How he got so far, that's a whole nother ball game. It was almost as though the door and the trap was left open for them. So there's a lot there. So what are people saying in the chat about it? Go ahead, Brother Kinani.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm listening. I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. It looks like a victory, one way or the other. Even if we want situations where we want an adjustment or change in leadership, this is not how we want it. We don't want it to be taken over by somebody that's worse and somebody that's backed by the direct enemy. We don't want to take a proxy enemy and get rid of them for a direct enemy. That doesn't make sense.
And regime change, we know, is one of the tools that they have in their arsenals, for dealing with removing our good leaders. Kwame Aboje agrees with us. He's saying, speak it, Sister Shanice, these neo-colonial stooges should be dealt with. So he's agreeing with you there. And he says, Asheo, imposter. Yes, indeed, imposters should be dealt with. And he was dealt with. Rise up, Aiman, in the house. Aiman is in the house saying, greetings, hear a lot of talk. Yeah, the reality is I call the Trojans out on here, and sister blocked me. Who blocked you? Well, we've got Trojans in the house. I don't know about that, man. I don't have time to be blocking anyone unless they're being offensive. So anyway, what should matter is facts, says what should matter. Betty's agreeing, that's right, Kwame, Africans should forbid that nonsense. Agree, so inappropriate, says So lots of comments there. Kwame's going to be celebrating ALD this weekend as well in honor of both Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman. Rise up, rise up. Mundele says he was killed later. I meant to write above, not during the so-called coup. So he was killed after. So, you know, there must have been some struggles or some fight or something going on. And Mundele, who's been the one sending me some information on this, because a lot of the videos are in French. So, you know, I can't know, but he decided to translate them for me. And he says that he's been knighted at St. Peter Basilica in Italy and received the Order of St. Paul's. This was some 8 years back. So not just anybody gets knighted and gets the Order of gets knighted at St. Peter's in Basilica in Italy. That they were preparing him for presidency. This is what they do. You know, they give these traitors, you know, these gowns, and they allow them to circle in their networks, and they say they're protecting them with an army, and they give them military training and kit them out. These guys had ammunition and submachine guns and the like. They went in equipped. My brother.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% on board with the fact that this is a good situation that we have, and it represents the time we're in. I told us that we're in the Desalinian. That's what we discussed last time. And that is the time that we're in. And I think probably now, if this is a good time, I got a short presentation, not a long one like the ones before. But what I want to talk about is what's going on in Uganda. And I really think I'm so glad it went the way that it did, because this is the perfect lead-in into what we're about to play. And before I show it, I want to say something to people, because I'm going to say it. You're going to be so offended. Every single person that I've sent this video, the last one I'm going to play is 8 minutes. It's the UK Parliament talking about Uganda. Every single person missed some of the key, most horrendous things that happened in it, including myself, because you become so horrified by them trying to push the LGBT that you miss the other 8 minutes of what's going on. And I want everybody, I'm going to test you when it's over. I want you to listen keenly. Let me just tell you, no one has done it. It's difficult because they're babbling and it's so offensive. But if you pull back from the emotion and listen, it's far more horrifying than what even myself, I didn't pick it up when I first heard it. I just said, look at them pushing.
It's what I picked up, but I'll wait until afterwards.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, in 8 minutes, you're going to get the most grotesque, heinous, barbaric, but it's not going to sound that way. So I want everybody to take your time down. I'm going to just do a little bit of a lead in just to put it in context. And then we're going to play this 8 minute clip. And I want you to listen to all 8 minutes. And then we're going to talk about that, because we're in some very, very serious times. So I'm going to go ahead now to my share screen. Let's see how we do that here. How do I do that?
Get your pens ready, family. Make your notes, because we want to see your comments in the chat, okay? You've been given your instructions, so listen keenly.
All right. So
oops, they're on screen. You're showing us.
Okay, let me see. Right, I'm gonna hit this one. I just wanted to move this. Okay, no, it'll hide. Okay, boom. I'm here.
Yes, we got you now.
You got me now? All right. And boom. All right. So again, anybody, if you want to reach us, liberation@waronthehorizon.com. That's how you can reach me by email. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get these things here off my screen. All right, there we go. All right, we're in the Desalinian. We just talked about this is the time that we're in right now. It's a time where we're going to have to be able to make the right moves. And I think we 1-0 right now. We started with that battle in Congo, stopping this revolution. I think right now we're in the Desalinian. We might be 3-0, 4-0, because we got Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And now we got the prevention of this coup in Congo. So we 4-0. So we got to keep winning on the map. And also in terms of if people want more information to understand what we're really facing in terms of what we're about to talk about, you can go to waronthehorizon.com. I suggest for people to get the War Is Here collection. You can get it electronically. It's very, very, very good information to help you understand the time that we're in as it relates to the homophile assault. So I just want to give a very quick review of what we went through last time, only to come into the discussion of today. We talked about one of the major issues that we were confronted with, the Homo-Judeo War, where we're saying, when we're looking at this LGBT thing that is being pushed on our people, we have not directly found the primary target that's pushing it. It's not only this group, but the primary target, the primary individuals who are financing and pushing this agenda are the ones whose flag it is. And we took people back to the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, 1934. This is long before there was a Palestine that they now call Israel. This is before any of that. Russia gave them their homeland. If you look down at the bottom, this is for the Jews, their homeland, before they took Palestine. They had their own place. Russia gave it to them. This is their flag. You look at the flag. What flag is that? This is the Jewish flag. It's not anybody. This is the actual Jewish flag, but it represents cultural conquest. It's not about a physical nation. It means wherever we are, we're going to make the world adopt this cultural construct, LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, so on. This is the flag of conquest. It is the Jewish flag we call the LGBT flag. It's not a debate. I'm giving you some history here so that we can get a better perception and understanding. Now, I'm showing this to go into the first clip that I'm going to show because we're talking about Uganda. I was just in Uganda in March. I was just in Uganda talking about what? About the Homo-Judeo War and the LGBT push. Who was in there? Who was pushing it? And one of the things I told them was that some of the people that the young people love were in America. I was at the meeting. He wasn't announced that he would be there. But when I went there in the same meeting I told you about before earlier, who did I see? I saw Bobby Wine. And what was Bobby Wine doing? Bobby Wine, from my vantage point, my assessment was, he was saying, yeah, I'm on board. Whatever we have to do, I want to lead Uganda. Yes, I'm cool with the LGBT. And I don't remember the exact wording. I just remember looking at it and going, wow, if this is not turning on the interests of the people of Uganda who love this young man, I said, he's been bought. I mean, I was there to see it. And these were blacks who were pushing the LGBT in the interest of white folks. So it's not just the white folks doing, these are blacks in America, Ron Daniels, pushing the LGBT imposition through different black people who all said we support it. When I brought the question up, even to the point where the next day they brought in Black Lives Matter, which we know, we call it JAM, Jewish Agendas Matter. It has nothing to do with black people, never has, never will. There are a few good black people who've gotten involved in it, not knowing that it wasn't in our interest. It is the LGBT imposition under a different name, whether they call it LGBT, whether they call all of it is the Homo-Judeo War. I was just there in Uganda in March, speaking to the youth in this conference at the Pan-African Pyramid. Now these are people I've had relationships with for years, but they know that I'm still fighting it. So they're sharing information with me. What I'm about to share with you, the first thing is a very short clip, but culturally and socially, the European NGOs are destroying Uganda right now through the same process that they destroyed America, where they're creating feminism by giving all the resources and money to women and leaving the men to have nothing. And so the men are getting strangled while the women are beginning to take authority and aggressive positions over the men because they have the money to get resources, cars, gas, homes, whatever they want to do, travel, where the men have nothing. And this sister, which is why I love black women so much, as opposed to taking her money and doing something with it, she comes to the people and says, we have a major problem with these NGOs. They're giving things to the women while denying the men, and is sending the men to prison and jail and other types of things, which we know, LGBT, because then they come in with the money to intrigue them into that with this. So let's first hear her in Uganda.
Madam Speaker, there are two things that I didn't hear very well from the colleagues. One of them is the parenting. If we are going to continue in this country to have only fathers and mothers who are not parents, we are going to keep with the problem. Madam Speaker, we visited the remand homes in this country. In Kampiringisa, 194 remandees, only 4 were girls. In Fort Portal, we met 75 remandees and on Speaker. In Masindi, 55 remandees, no girl. And these are the boys who are expected to bring things to our families to marry our children. Madam Speaker, if we don't take care of these boys and we think because they don't get pregnant, therefore they cannot be spoiled, we are not going to have responsible men leading homes. And therefore this government must invest now very seriously if we have to emancipate women in the boys.
So she gets it. She sees you got all of these boys that are coming and they need help. The girls are not coming. Why? Because they're getting help. They're being paid. They're being bought. They're being bought like, and many of the men, I don't want to be offensive, but I want to be honest. Many of the men around the world, because I'm talking to men around the world now, it's gone beyond America. I've talked to people in Britain that this has happened to. And I've actually talked to a significant amount of Black men who are liberators. They are liberators. They're freedom fighters. There's something they're doing. And I mean, it's incredible to me that's happening around the world. Black women are leaving and walking away from strong, aggressive Black men. And the resources of all countries are going to Black women in the interest of those women, not just getting those resources and helping their families. No. Black women are being recruited internationally to wage the war against strong Black manhood, family, and civilization. In other words, they're using Black women as proxies because just like we talked about Congo, if you go in directly and deal with strong Black men, you're going to have something coming back at you. It is very difficult for men to fight their own women because we love our own women. So it's a very shrewd war. And the same Jews we've been talking about, this is what I'm just talking the truth. What they're doing internationally, the same group. She's talking about how they've gone into Uganda. The NGOs are bringing in funds, woman empowerment. In fact, I'm going to tell this very quick story because it's true. When I was there in Uganda, there were a few sisters who had worked with the brother who put together the Pan-African Pyramid, but they've gone off and gotten their law degrees and now they're attorneys. And he introduced me to him and he said, they used to come out, but they don't come out anymore. And so when I began talking to them about this very same, I didn't know that this was going on to this degree, but it just came up in conversation. And I said, they're financing women over the men. And I talked about the DIE, the diversity, inclusion, and equity, which is really DIE. And they looked at me and they told me, yeah, we're here for a conference right now. That's where we just going to, where that's what they're doing and giving us the money. And so I looked at them and one of them was just staring at me and I could feel it. I could read it. It was like, he sees what's going on and she was hearing me and recognizing, wow, this is what's going on. But the reality of it is those two sisters were doing very well. They're attorneys. And the question was, are we going to do anything to jeopardize this good money that we're making? And neither of them showed up to the event. They said they were coming and I'm not weighing anything on that. I'm just saying real time, I'm literally watching and witnessing it occur around the world. So this is the financing, and I want Black women to hear this because you need to know this because this is what they're going to be pulling your daughters into. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take the money. You just shouldn't do their interests. Take the money and figure out how to funnel it back into our community and fight the war against it. But we have to do something like this sister is saying because we can't leave our brothers behind because there'll be no balance. Now that's one. She's in Uganda. Now we're going to go to UK. And again, this is 8 minutes. So even with me saying what I just said and you hearing the sister say that, I want you to put your listening ears on and hear this. And don't worry, I'm going to come out. We're going to talk after this. And before we leave, I'm going to show 2 slides of what's happening in Kenya that's very good. So we're not going to leave depressed tonight. But I want you to listen to this 8 minutes, and we're going to come out and talk. And I want you to see, as you're listening, anything that you see that is harmful and an attack on African people, I want you to list it. And let's see if people actually catch what's really being said in this clip. All right, let's go.
Bob Cashman. I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act has increased violence and discrimination against LGBT plus people. The UK has made its opposition clear to all levels of the Ugandan government. On the 3rd of April, the Ugandan Constitutional Court struck down some provisions. However, the legislation remains, including the death penalty for so-called aggravated homosexuality. The Deputy Foreign Secretary met the Ugandan Justice Minister on the 3rd of April, underlining the importance of ensuring people are free from persecution, regardless of sexuality, and stressing our concern at this legislation.
My Lords, I congratulate the government on the action that it has taken so far, but it can and must do more. The Ugandan law criminalises those who even supply services to LGBT people. And as the Minister said, there is aggravated homosexuality faces the death penalty, 20 years in prison for merely being homosexual. The situation is dire and worsening. Arrests, people going into hiding, blackmail, and service providers closing. Therefore, I ask the government to mirror the actions taken by the United States, Canada, and the World Bank. Targeted individual named sanctions, access individual assets held in the UK, and an immediate pause on development support which could be used by discriminatory actors. And finally, my Lords, to call upon Uganda to end implementing the law with forced anal examinations. Such barbaric human rights abuses must be vigorously denounced.
Well, I'd start with the last point. I entirely agree with the Noble Lord, and I thank him for all the work he's done on this and many other related issues. This is an appalling situation for minorities in Uganda, and as is part of a pattern that we are seeing, unfortunately, across many sub-Saharan African countries. The UK, nobody in Africa can be under no one in Uganda can be under any illusions about the UK's position on this. Every level of government have raised this and will continue to do so. We don't discuss openly what plans we have in terms of sanctions, but we will look at all alternatives that all opportunities we can to continue to raise this and make sure that the government of Uganda, the Parliament of Uganda, and those proposing this legislation understand how devastating this is and how what an enormous damage has been done to Uganda's reputation in the world. And I'll continue to work with him and others to make sure that we are taking every action we can.
My Lords, I entirely support entirely what Lord Cashman has just said about Uganda.
Thanks.
My Lords, will the Minister not agree that one thing that could make a really big difference to this appalling situation would be a change in regime and free and fair elections? He will have noted that the European Parliament concluded that the last elections were neither free nor fair, and in fact were violent. And what more can we do to ensure there is this multi-party democracy? And will he find time to meet the outstanding new leader of the opposition, Joel Sessegnoni, who is a brave young politician who deserves our support?
I thank my noble friend. I would just say that we will work with any government of Uganda. They are important allies, they're members of the Commonwealth, they are doing important work elsewhere in Africa for peace and security. But it is only through having a good, friendly relationship with a country like that we can state how appalled we are at legislation such as this. And so obviously we want to promote free and fair elections at every stage, but the government of Uganda is the government of Uganda. They're doing great things in support of peace and security in Africa. We support that, but this is an unacceptable regression of freedoms and personal rights.
Lord Steve.
Not only the voice of government that needs to be heard, it's the voice of civil society. And I've welcomed the government's contribution in the past to the Commonwealth Equality Network. But we can do more, making sure faith voices are heard, making sure trade union voices. What is his department doing, working with the international trade union movement, who have very good policies on this to influence people in those countries? So it's not just seen as a UK government action, but it's a civil society action that can be abhorred of these laws.
I think I can reassure the Noble Lord. I met with our High Commissioner to Uganda this week, and she gave me details of many of the projects we are doing with civil society, with organisation, and some of our overseas development assistance money goes, for example, funding grassroots efforts to shift attitudes on gender-based violence, and there are many other things that we are doing. And he's right that many faith-based organisations are key to this. One of the unfortunate drivers of this legislation has been promoted by an evangelical view of Christianity, and not one that many of us who would ascribe to Christian values being one of compassion and kindness. It seems to be one of quite the reverse. And I know that many faith-based organisations want to have nothing to do with that and want to try and correct that. And we will work with anybody who is seeking to support people affected by this legislation.
So on a visit to Kampala before the pandemic, I met with the leadership of the Anglican community because my visit was about the abolition of the death penalty, and they said that they would support my work on the death penalty as long as I didn't campaign on LGBT rights. And now we have the death penalty supported by that community there. I'm grateful that Lambeth Palace has disassociated itself from that. But will the Minister agree with me that the development partnership agreement that the UK has with Uganda, which includes, I quote, "We will also use a full range of tools to defend democratic norms and the rights of excluded groups, for example, the LGBT plus community," is no longer operable because those groups that we have been supporting now face the very criminal penalties that the Noble Lord Cashman had indicated. Will the Minister further agree with me that our relationship with Uganda cannot continue as it has? We need a formal review of our development relationship, and we do need to state to the government of Uganda that our view of the Commonwealth Charter, their act is inconsistent with this. We cannot carry on as we have before.
Our bilateral ODA does not go to the government of Uganda, and this financially it is due to increase quite considerably, but it's going to very specific areas of need, such as strengthening health systems, empowering women. We prevented 2.4 million unintended pregnancies through family planning advice, increased modern contraceptive use by 5.7%, and supported 600,000 women to access electricity through Get Fit, our renewable energy program. And crucially, as I said earlier, funding grassroots efforts to shift attitudes on gender-based violence, engaging women's rights groups to defend against discrimination. Our ODA programs are constantly under review, but I do think it's important that we continue to support those kinds of efforts within Uganda and other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, where we are seeing a regression on LGBTQ rights.
Lords, the government of Uganda is a member of the Commonwealth, as are so many other nations which have, unfortunately, very similar policies. The Commonwealth Charter, as has been mentioned, commits Uganda to compliance with international human rights laws, in particular relating to equality. So will the Minister and his department do what they can to ensure that this important topic is put on the agenda for the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is in Samoa in October?
I thank the Noble Lord for that very important point. I spoke to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth on this subject, and we have agreed to continue to discuss this in the lead up to CHOGM, and we want to make sure that human rights and the very values that underpin the Commonwealth are reflected in the work of that very important meeting.
All right.
Third oral question, Lord Holmes of Richmond.
All right, so let me see. Okay. All right. So now I want to see if people picked up. Let's take a look and see. Maybe you can read out some of the things that the people talked about, see if people caught what they just heard. Or maybe you want to talk about some of the things that you caught, or what do you want to do? Can you hear me?
Let's unmute myself. Okay. Wow. Like you said, it's just jaw-dropping, isn't it? A lot of what they said is coded, because the English has such a beautiful way of like putting things. And I think, there's so much in there that is so, so concerning, but the real big jaw dropper for me of everything in there, which for me is what the targeted women agenda is all about as well. Yeah.
I'm listening.
It's the depopulation agenda and the 2.4 million pregnancies that they managed to abort, coupled with an increase in what do they call it? Prevention, like condoms and the like. It's a depopulation agenda. So despite what's going on in terms of the LGBTQ agenda and their rage about it, and we all heard there and we saw how enraged they are that Uganda isn't embracing this because it's also part of their depopulation agenda, but they don't want to stop all the other funding programs because, they've got rid of 2.4 million black babies. They've stopped 2.4 million black babies.
1 year.
From coming into the world. My gosh.
You hit you're the first person that got the bingo. Nobody else, even myself, when I first heard it, I thought it was 600,000 baby. I think it was so grotesque of an idea. Can I put that into a perspective? I want us all to stop for a minute, just to get an idea. Because
I'm sorry for taking the fun out, family. Maybe you should have asked me last. But hey, I mean, this was like that just went, like a Popeye moment. Dun, 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 like, what?
Okay,
then with the contraceptions and contraceptives and the increase in contraceptives and the idea that they're promoting all these condoms, more black babies ending up in condoms and being thrown away as well. This is how they're reducing our population, and they don't want to stop.
You're absolutely correct. Everything you're saying is correct. I see you upset. This is the thing. What he just said, I want people to really understand. I want to put it in a context. I think most of us, no matter how we know our history with Arabs is, we know the history of Africans and Arabs. But what's happening in Palestine right now, most people are just horrified by. It's just open, overt, straight up genocide. I mean, it's we've seen it enough from our own selves to say this is hideous. But how many people have they said that they kill Palestinians? How many?
Well, there was over 2 million people living in the region. So whatever number they're quoting, they are grossly underestimating.
Right.
It's under 1 million, but officially it's under 1 million, but I suspect it's much.
Officially, they're saying it's 40,000. They're saying we think it's 40,000.
No.
But I'm just saying, yeah, we know that they're down the line. But even if they're not, let's say it's 1 million. I want people to be very clear. Yeah. Even if it's 1 million, which is, at some point it's going to be 1 million the way they're doing, or if it's not, they don't come close to 2.5 million. And I want you to understand, he's only talking about 1 year. So this not a program that's new. So over the last 10 years, how many? This is one country. Understand, this is one country. This is one country.
Yeah.
They're saying we stopped, and I want people. I really want people to walk through that thing again. If you get a chance, listen to it again, because Sister Shanice hit it right on the nose. She's the only person that hit it on the nose. But I really want to walk through some pieces of it because it's very important what she's saying. First of all, that's the big hit. They're annihilating us, and they're doing it quietly. But they're telling an African nation, you must accept homophilia. It's not a debate. You must bend over. If not, they start talking about the things they were going to do. We got to change the relationship. We don't want to give you any funding. So When he said that, somebody stood up and said, yeah, well, maybe we need regime change. He just openly said it.
That was the other thing, I was like, what? Regime change. They want to orchestrate basically a coup or rig premature elections. In fact, they've got someone lined up who they already know will accept their agenda.
They've already picked
him. We got to watch out for that one. They named him.
We need to put him out there, and it's no offense to him because we don't know him. But if the enemy puts you out as someone that's going to help them with their LGBT agenda, then you're an enemy to our people. And it's your responsibility to come out and say, no, I don't support the LGBT agenda. Otherwise, we're going to call you for what he just said you are, a race traitor. So we already know who the next Mobutu is. So the Ugandans need to hear this. Like, this is going out live around the world. People need to share this with people in Uganda who need to listen to this, even download this, cut it, send this thing to all the Ugandans and say, this person was named as someone who's going to work to commit genocide through at least this approach, which is the LGBT part. So that's one thing. Like you said, they openly, publicly said, like we saw it in the Congo, we saw them stop it. Now they're telling us that they want to do regime change, announcing it in parliament, which is a declaration of war, quite frankly.
It is. The other thing I picked up around that irritated Jimmy is that they actually went on to say that they've never had free and fair elections. Is that because they've been rigging it before? What do they mean by that?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Fair elections. Let's just do a regime change. Yeah, we can rig the computers.
And that's one that's something that Pastor Martin Semple was saying. We don't want these voting booths because they rig elections with them. That's one of the things that Pastor Martin Semple, who's been fighting this LGBTQ thing strong, he came out big in this last election and said, we don't want these voting machines anymore because they can rig elections with this, just like you just said.
Yeah,
but now,
you can program a computer to do anything you want it to do. I've always said that about these computers that they're using. When you've got the ballot boxes and the votes, you've got the hard evidence, haven't you? With the names of individuals, the numbers from each of the polling stations. As long as those boxes don't disappear, you've got a record of all of the votes. But when it's computerized, it could say anything. So it could be rigged from America. They can control the computer from anywhere in the world.
They can control it from where they control all of it from Israel. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, get it right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's all Israel,
or Ukraine.
Ukraine, Israel, America, it's all the same at this point. They're three same places.
Yeah.
But so we got, they're committing genocide. They start by saying we need to pull the funding. Then they say, well, maybe we'll overthrow. Then they said something else. I want us to really catch these things because like she said, then they said we should just do it through the voting booth. Right. We should just take and do it through the voting booths. Then they said who the next Mobutu is. We got one lined up right now. Maybe this is who we need to put in place. So they're talking about the overthrow of a nation, which again is a declaration of war. But then they come in and say, we don't want it to just look like it's just England. We need to get civic groups and trade unions involved in it. And we've been on the ground working to get their people to be pushing the agenda. So they're telling us now, he said very clearly, the money is not going to the actual government. The funding we're giving is not going to the government to help the people. The funding is going to programs to promote LGBT and to promote women being by themselves and not having husbands and families. So the money is not going to people for food or going for development and education. The money's not going there for that. But they're saying that we need to do more to get the people there to change their attitudes. When they say gender development and protecting women, that doesn't mean protecting women. It means stopping women from having husbands and families and children. That's all it means. They just use fancy language.
Yeah.
So they're telling us that it's not as effective when it's coming from the UK saying it. They need black-skinned people like the people I told you were in Baltimore, like Bobby Wine being paid for to come to America and funded through the Black Boule in America, going to the African continents to push this sick, perverted LGBT. They're doing it in Ghana. It's horrible in Ghana. The level of the homophile infestation in Ghana, it is collapsing the Ghanaian Republic because it's being supported at the highest levels. You have people like Sam George, who's in office, who's doing a great job speaking out against it. And the people don't want it, but the penetration through Black people in the US being funded by the homophiles here and through this government-funded sponsored projects or privately government-private funding partnerships that are going in and putting money into, and I'm gonna be honest with you, they're calling it Pan-Africanism. So I want you to hear what I'm saying. Listen to me, everybody. They got a bunch of gays from over here. I'm not telling you what I think. Gays and Mobutu, just traitors, who are being funded under Pan-Africanism to go to Ghana and sponsor the rebirth of Pan-Africanism, which is nothing but homophilia, which is why you now see the Yoruba and the different spiritual traditions walking around with a litter, like 50 of them walking around gays in their white garments, talking about their Yoruba and this, that, and the other. They're pushing through the African-centered with that name, but not that spirit. They're pushing it through Blackness. So anything that's got a Black label on it, if it's not a Sister Shanice or myself, you got to really study it because they're doing it through littering it. And I mean, not just there, everywhere in Africa, they're sending Black homophiles from here. I know what I'm talking about. They're funding them. Some of them are Pan-African scholars and stuff. I'm telling you what they're doing. They ain't no Pan-African scholars. They're Pan. they funny boys, and they're going over there, but they're pushing this sick agenda, and they're sleeping with children. They're sleeping with men over there, and they're financing young brothers that want to get their educations. They'll sponsor them, and part of the sponsorship is having sex with them little guys. And this is happening all throughout West Africa. I know that it's happening in East Africa, but in East Africa, from what I know, they're funding some of the big preachers, like they did here with Eddie Long and those, these big mega preachers. And I know they're doing some of that in Uganda. I know for a fact. I know people on the ground.
TD Jakes.
That's here in America. Yes. Yes. I've been telling people since the late 90s, early 2000s that TD Jakes was a homophile. Watch your children. Stay away from them. People want to say, why are you saying this, brother? If people that are familiar with me know, I've been telling people this forever. This is an organized effort. Now, getting back to what we heard in Uganda, there's some pieces that people are missing. You got most of them, but there's still other pieces. So when they went past that, I want people to understand, and Sister Shanice caught it, but I want people to understand the nuance of this. This is deep. They were all saying the things I just said. And what the main speaker was saying is, hold up, everyone. I want y'all to go listen to it again. And when you hear it, you go, wow. What he was saying to them, he didn't use these exact words, but this is what he was saying. Listen, we're already killing 2.5 million of them like this. And through the women planning and stuff, we're doing that. But this is the thing. We can only do that with a friendship with Uganda. Because as a friend, we can kill millions of them through these mechanisms. If we become too openly hostile on the LGBT and too direct, we may lose the friendly relationship and we won't be able to slaughter as many of them. I want people to catch that. He's telling them, wait, we're killing. That's why he wasn't going to give those numbers. He wanted to make sure that they understood. Listen, you guys, we've already killed 2.5 million of them last year. And if you add the 600,000 women that were given this and this, we don't know how many of them they're given some kind of shot or some injection to sterilize them like they did in Kenya. 400.
You have to be careful on that, otherwise they'll pull the whole video.
I'm sorry, thank you. It's
okay, because we know there are a multiplicity of tools that they use. That is being used against us. Just to add to what you were saying as well before about them paying the organizations. Yes, they're paying organizations. But we were also informed that they're paying individuals as well who sign up to this homophilia agenda. And so a lot of young men are lining up to get their $70 a week or something like that through these organizations a month. $70 a month through these organizations, and they're using that money to live on. But at the same time, they're having to bend over backwards to get it.
And do you know how they get their money each month? I found out last time. Did I share that here or no?
Yeah, I think you shared some, but you know, there may well be people who missed it last time. Please do share again.
I just got back from Kenya. I told you I was in Uganda. I was also in Kenya. This came up. I didn't even bring it up, but it came up at a table, and they were surprised that I knew that it was going on. And these are people in Kenya, and they were like, yeah, it's going on. They have videos that they find out that these young boys are doing. And they said, we got to do something about this. It's taking over the country. And I'm like, so how do these boys get paid? He said, right now they know US and German sponsors. They have to send a video of them with another guy. These were boys. I don't know, the girls might do the same thing, but these were the boys having sexual contact with another male. And they send that, and that's how they get their stipend each month. So they're getting homegrown pornography, sending this through to these whites in Germany and America to get their money.
Wow.
And you can imagine
what they're doing to our men of tomorrow. They're using money, bits of paper.
And see, with the corrupt leadership, see, this is what happens with these corrupt leaders.
Yeah.
They take the money from the people, stuff their pockets, go spend it on spending free
Spend it abroad, keep it in banks abroad, but then, hey, what were they saying about the personal bank accounts of some of the people that they've been stuffing loads of money in suitcases to? Those very same ones now who are unable to stand up to their counterparts against this agenda are now going to get those very same bank accounts frozen. Yeah, we heard they mentioned that just now in the Houses of Parliament debate. They are coming after, and they know who they are because they've given them the money. They know who they are because they've helped them to open those bank accounts in the European banks. They wouldn't be able to touch that money if the money was in Uganda and in their own country. Yeah. But that money doesn't even benefit Uganda. It stays in the UK, earns interest in the UK. It's used in the UK to finance big business, to finance corruption and everything else, you know, whilst they can't even spend it because it's probably too much money for them to spend. And if they do spend it, they're spending it on luxury items in the UK, America, or in the West.
They're going out buying sex with white women. I'm just keeping it real. They're going out buying sex with white women, buying them furs and doing the stuff, spending the money any kind of way that they want with them and their families. But if they took that money and injected it back into the own economy, they would be more wealthy than they are now because the people would appreciate them and nobody would even question how much they have because they would be giving it to the people and the people would be happy. Nobody would even care how much money they have. But the corruption that they're involved in, the brother came on your program and talked, Brother Amos, about how they're allowing the European companies to come in and don't have to pay taxes, but they can make the money off the people. But then they're shooting the prices of gas, electric, and water for the people in the country up. So the people can't even afford things, which does what? It makes them desperate. They can't provide things for their children. And then those same homosexuals that don't have to pay, those homophiles that don't have to pay taxes for anything and get all of this wealth and sucking it out of the country can now take that same money that they made and give back to those children to bend them over. So it is the corrupt leadership of countries. Like one thing I can say, oh, there was another piece that's very important. I got to go back because there's so many pieces. Another thing he was saying, remember, I want people to understand, you got to be able to listen to these white folks. He said, listen, Uganda is a friend because they're doing some things, allowing peace and no. What is he saying? Yes. He's saying, look, we still want to get access to the Congo's resources. Yeah. And whatever relationships we have through Uganda and these other countries to do that, we want to still be able to get these cheap resources and access, so we don't want to get them too angry and block off our access to free mineral resources.
I heard that as well. This is what he was implying. You know, they've got friendly relations with Uganda in terms of peace and security in the region. And we know Uganda and Rwanda have been implicated in, you know, allowing, you know, the minerals to be taken from the Congo. And at the same time, you know, the ones behind those militia groups, yeah, they basically said that in a coded way in that parliamentary debate.
So they're saying, listen,
if any of our African family and friends who are listening, and if any of the African politicians who are listening didn't believe before that the British UK government have these sort of debates about Africa in Parliament, well, this exposes it all. If you think for 1 minute that their priorities and their interest and a lot of their policies and a lot of their spending and a lot of their programs is not directed at Africa, is not being directed at Africa, well, now you're really hearing it. And don't think that they're friends of ours. Don't think they've got our interest at heart. You know, as one of our great revolutionary freedom fighters says, we have no friends. Which one was it who said that? Someone will tell me in the chat. Who was it that reminded us?
Dr. Clark. Dr. John Henry Clark.
John Henry Clark. We have no friends. Thank you. Wow, we have no friends.
Yeah, so
carry on, my brother. There was so much, as you said, so many pieces in that clip. Oh, let's go to the chat. Family, are you posting in the chat? You know, what are you saying? What's going on? What is your perspective? What is your view about what's happening? Let me see if I can get the chat up here. Carry on, beloved, and I'll try and find the chat and come back.
Okay.
Post your comments, family. We want to hear from you, get some interaction.
Sure. So I want people to, we've said it, but I want to say it again because this is it's very critical. We're talking about not suspicion of eugenics. We're talking about stated, acknowledged, intentional genocide, where they gave us, we are not accusing them of killing 2.5 million Ugandan African people. They are taking credit for having exterminated 2.5 million African people in Uganda last year. I want everybody to just stop for a minute. Again, I want you to take you back to Gaza. Right now, the Palestinians are saying they've murdered 40,000. That is the Palestinian number. I'm not saying what the real number. I'm saying what the Palestinians are saying. This is their numbers. They say it's 40,000 and maybe many more. And the world is saying it's horrifying. This man just stood up and is bragging and in doing it as if we're stupid enough to think that it's a good thing. And some of us are uninformed enough to think, no, that's family planning. He just stated, he stated for the record, we, implicating himself, as white Englishmen, have intentionally, with malice aforethought, and are taking pride in the fact, we have killed 2.5 million Ugandan Africans in 1 year. And we're going to continue to do this. So we have to make sure that we do it in the right way through multiple means, which means he only gave us one of the means that he killed the 2.5 million, which is the unintended pregnancies. We don't have a clue how many that adds up to if you add up the homophilia, if you add up the feminism.
Apologies.
No problem. If we add up all of the different means, we don't know what it is, but the number that they're giving us, this is a public acknowledgement of intentional, active genocide against the nation of Uganda by the British Parliament. No one questioned whether that's not what he said was true. And they continued with eugenics by making the whole basis of the discussion We must prevent the men and women from coming together under their own cultural context and producing families. That was the whole basis of it. They must accept LGBT, which our people have said no. This is real time what we're dealing with, open, overt, stated genocide. It's not even a question. Yes. So I want people to really chew on that for a minute. I don't know, honestly, I've heard a lot of things. I don't know if I've ever heard this direct an acknowledgement to the intentional genocide, giving numbers to it happening actively from the UK or America of intentional genocide against Black people. I think you've been muted because I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Are you?
Sorry about that. Yes, I did put myself on mute because the phone rang and I didn't want it interrupting the broadcast because it's linked to my computer. So when it rings on my phone, even though I've stopped it on my phone, it continues ringing on the computer, and I was trying to stop it. So,
you got a Mac.
Yeah.
I got that.
So apologies for that. Yes. So I'm going to go over to the chat. Apologies if I'm a bit behind on the messages. It's for some odd reason they're not coming up on my phone, but I've got them on my computer here. I've got some messages here. And Kwame Ossi is saying, rise up, brother Kwame Ossi, good to have you in the house. He's saying the American ambassador to Ghana said, if the president of Ghana signs the LGBTQ bill into law, there could be sanctions on Ghana. Wow. So this is them threatening Ghana with sanctions should they sign their LGBTQ bill into law. And this is army says, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
And so the other army is saying a Kufu Adodo is the idiot would go along with that filthy practice. Yeah, you know, the pressure isn't even coming from him. It's coming from the lawmakers, it's coming from the public, it's coming from the church, the faith society. They're all absolutely in favor of this, you know, family bill, which would outlaw LGBTQ in Ghana. But, you know, I think the president is stalling about signing it because, you know, his paymasters have got a noose kind of hanging over his head. But the people don't want it. Go ahead, brother.
I want to be honest about it, just so, because what happens is, I'm not a politician. I'm not here for a political appointment. I'm just going to be honest so that people know. When I first saw him, I knew what it was. Y'all can read between the lines. When I first saw him, like when I first saw this, the president of Ghana, I said, I hope it's not. I know what I'm looking at. That's what I've been doing a long time. So y'all can go ahead and read between the lines on that. I went in 2019. I mean, still have the videos. We did them. And I said, because what they did is, and he was the president. He knows what he's doing. It had gotten, CSE was part of the Ghana curriculum. Listen to what I'm saying to you. It was not that they were trying to implement it. They had implemented it without mentioning it to any of the people. When the people found out that CSE had been implemented, I was one of the people that was reaching out, talking to people, sharing that information. Joy News put a story out on it. I interviewed with them, and then I went over and lectured over in Ghana. And I told the people, this is what's happening, and your leadership, it cannot get into an active curriculum without your leadership knowing. At which time President Otto came out and said, oh, we'll never allow gay marriage, just to get the people's clapping. But he did not take a position against the behavior because he knew exactly what was happening. But he also knew that the Ghanaian people, this is the one good thing I can say about Ghana that might be superior to other regions of Africa. I think more than any country in Ghana that I've been to, the people know that they are the government. And what I mean by that is, there's only so far you can go in Ghana. If the people know, now you can trick people, but if the people know that you're trying to push something over on them, it doesn't matter if you've been voted in or not, they'll move you out. The people of Ghana know that the government is theirs. I'm not saying Ghana's perfect, but I'm saying I have seen that. And so even in positions of power in Ghana, they know it's only so far you can push people. You got to trick them. You got to walk them in. You can't just boldly push them on something because They'll send you out of there. So the people of Ghana, when they know what's going on, they push back. But truthfully, kind of like Kenya. In Kenya, they did not know what the LGBT flag. I went there in 2019 or 2008, 2019. My years ago, in 2019. They were about to legalize homosexuality. I went there and lectured, and I showed them the flag. They didn't know what the flag was. I didn't know that. But when I showed them the flag, there was a flag. I was at the Kenyan National Museum. Right like a block away on the steps leading to Nairobi University, they had painted the LGBT flag. But the people thought it was a beautiful, artwork. They didn't know. 2 days after I did the lecture, on the front page of the paper in Kenya, the gays are attacking us. Look at this. This is the LGBT flag. So I was so proud because some of the political figures were there. They informed the government. It got into the papers. And then they successfully voted against legalizing it in Kenya. It's still being pushed, though. And the leadership now, I'm just going to be honest, the people of Kenya are not having it. The churches are not having it. But their leadership is no different than Ghana's. We have both of these two places are the hubs in East Africa and West Africa for manufacturing plant of genocide. I'm going to say it again. The manufacturing plants of genocide are coming through Ghana and through Kenya, through the leadership they have now for the manufactured. Remember, the thing didn't destroy Africa like they said. Remember, Gates said they're going to be bodies laid out in the street. Him and his wife up there laughing. Oh, you're going to have to take the bodies off. It didn't happen like they wanted it to happen in Africa. But since it didn't, now they're getting African nations through the corrupt leadership to make the death right there on the spot, to make sure and ensure to give jobs to people to kill themselves and kill our families and friends. Because we have corrupt leadership. We got to be honest about it. We got to do something about it. These words have got to be spoken. We've got to say now, there's no reason why the diaspora should not be saying, wait a minute, the UK has just expressed an active genocide on Uganda. They've just acknowledged that they've committed genocide, and they've just expressed that they're continuing to do this. We will not tolerate this. We won't allow this. We should be, this clip that we just watched is enough for every African in the diaspora to organize to say, oh, we will not tolerate this. And for every African country to say, we may have to expel the English. All the English NGOs, anybody who's European English, we may have to expel you because you've just acknowledged that you have an active, intentional, organized effort where you've already killed 2.5 Africans. You've just acknowledged that to us. We can't responsibly allow you to be here. We can't allow you to have companies here. Maybe we can't do trade in the things that you want most here. Like, if we don't do anything on this, we're giving them license and authority to kill our people. That video we watched is enough for every African person who is responsible and loves African people to say, we have to do something. We should be organizing around this.
Absolutely agree with you on that, my brother. Let's hear what our family is saying in the chat, because this is serious. This is serious. Right. Let's brother Mahogany, what are you saying? The wickedness is real. Kwame says these demons are using our African family to be intolerant against each other, pure devils. What should Master is saying? They're trying to date the women too. So that's another part of the depopulation, the African depopulation agenda, because they're targeting us as Africans, Yeah, they're flaunting their European women and pushing their European women onto our Black men to, again, dilute our population, because of course they can control, those offsprings. And look, we had the man we was talking about earlier, Christian Malanga, in there with his son, about ready to overthrow, the government of Congo. I saw images of him with a European woman who was the mother of that mixed race child of his. So, he obviously wasn't interested in a beautiful Black goddess, or at that time. So, very concerning about what was going to be pushed there on the agenda. But our ancestors dealt with that. Kwame says he's psychopathic with no remorse at all. Go ahead.
I want to say something about what you just said. Based on what you just said, and of course we have the destruction of Black civilization. Dr. Chancellor Williams already told us this. It would be wise for African nations to say, you cannot hold political power or position in our country if you are not mated. If you have a mate, that mate must be of the complementary gender, meaning a man with a woman of the same race. And maybe if you're in Ghana, she doesn't have to be Ghanaian, but she got to be African. She has to be Black. She has to be Black. And because we have some, I think we may be, I'm not sure, but we may be the only race of people on the planet that have a country of our own people where the president is married outside of the race. That is ridiculous.
The first lady, and that person who he's married to is the first lady of that country. Guinea, for example, first lady, a European woman who's accused of like siphoning off millions of the resources via mining contracts. And you've got the situation of Gabon as well, the whole family there, European white wife and mixed race children accused of, having suitcases loads of money at their apartment. These are people who don't have a heart for us as Africans, and we've got to say enough is enough. So many of our African countries and our citizens there living below the poverty line, earning less than us, living on less than $1 a day, as they say. Yet the countries are minerally rich. And as you say, we just heard them talking in the Houses of Parliament about the good relations they have with Uganda on the military front in terms of peace and security. They don't know what peace is. They don't know what peace is. And we know what's happening where their Ugandan forces are concerned. Family. Let me go back to the chat, shall I? Apologies for not bringing in more of your comments. It's just, there's so much going on here. Yeah, they're agreeing with us 100%. Watch the Matter says Jamaica had white presidents in the past. I'm still confused how that happened until this day. Exactly. We are just, I'll tell you what happened is, first of all, they indoctrinate us with Christianity, I must say, or with the Islam religion. Because remember, the image of the God that you have in your mind that they have us worshipping, if you're following the Christian or the Islam religion, doesn't look like us. It doesn't look like us. It looks like the white man. So if the God in your mind looks like the white man, if the Jesus on your cross looks like the white man, if the angels who are in heaven looks like the white men and women, you are worshiping whiteness. You can't worship whiteness and love your Black self. And so if they've indoctrinated the majority of population through the religion to worship whiteness, then we're looking at them as gods. We're looking at them as people who have our interest at heart. And because they've come with a version of Christianity that they've given us and indoctrinated us with over the last 400 years, most of us who are in that faith are never going to believe that they would do anything to harm us. People who have heard that clip probably still can't believe it and are thinking, no, there must be some mistake here. They wouldn't do that. And they'll line up to take, whatever dose that they're going to be handing out to us because, oh my gosh, they are the image of God. They wouldn't do anything to harm us. They just don't believe us. Well, they think we're conspiracy theorists or something like that when, we highlight what's really going on. This is what we're up against. So that is why Jamaica, which has, more churches, I think, than any other country anywhere in the world per square mile on that island, which is hugely religious, and had a system which we called colorism. The lighter and the whiter, the more higher class you were. This is how it was. That we allowed people who didn't look like us to rule us because we believed and we were indoctrinated into believing that they had our interest at heart and that they were better than us and knew more than us and could do a better job than we could do. That's how it happened, beloved. Come back in, please, my brother. You want to add to the colorism comments here and why you think it is that we are putting people who don't look like us ahead of us to take up these positions?
I was actually I was thinking about something else for a minute. In a second I was going, but in terms of what you said, I agree with what you. I was actually listening to what you were saying. What I know is this has been a problem. Sometimes we have problems and we look at it in the context of our current environment, which what you did is absolutely accurate. But also, be honest with you, this has been going on for 6,000 years. Dr. Chancellor Williams talked about the fact that basically the key element in the destruction of Black civilization was allowing the intermarrying into our families and the integration of Africa. They didn't beat us with military wars. If you look at Jamaica, they didn't beat Jamaica with military wars. Even the IMF, they beat them with, economic warfare.
Debt traps.
Debt traps where honestly, they had leaders that, and I'm not saying they were all bad leaders, people like Michael Manley or whatever the case may be, because the thing was, the IMF says you come in and devalue your money or else you're not going to be the leader anymore. And that didn't mean like we're going to get you voted out. So it's like, you have people who really do care about the country, maybe. I'm not saying all of them, but maybe. But some of the decisions they make are based life and death. Now, I'm not justifying what they do. I'm saying that becomes the course of why there's a Dessalines. That's why it becomes the course of a nanny. That's why it's no reason to have a leader if they're not a warrior, because anywhere you're in leadership of African people, the Euros and the hats, the small hats are going to come and they're going to say, hey, give us the rulership. That's just how it works all around the world. And if you say no, then you got to fight. Then you shouldn't even be there if you're not going to take that fight, because what good are you there? The problem we have is the problem we have is that when we have great leaders like Baba Magufuli, he is a great leader and knows how to develop a nation and build it. Well, then we need the goons to not want to overthrow him, but to be financed by him to defend him to be there. It's plenty of good money for goons who will make sure if we know how to do that, if we get out of our egos, so we get the strong men want to take over. Every strong man doesn't need to take over. If you're a strong man, but this guy's a good leader, let him lead, and you strong man. You don't know how to organize our different components to get an effective victory. We got strong men out there. We need to be getting a lot of these young brothers out here would love to be the strong men. We would just have to teach them to get away from the desire to overthrow your own. You're not here to get higher. You're here to make sure that this works. And then you already high. You can continue to do well and we can develop and we can have stability. But we have a difficult time developing stability because we don't realize every great leader is not a strong man and every strong man is not a great leader. But if we merge those things together, we can win. And sometimes, be quite frank, sometimes it's going to be a woman. I'm not saying what we're seeing now where they're putting the women over men is appropriate. I'm just saying from time to time, you're going to get a sister who just can't be denied her power. And there's no reason for us to care. If she's a good leader, we still the strong men. We still men. Let her do what she do. We still protect and defend it because it's really about all of our development. We're going to always be men either way. We're not threatened by a woman having a position as long as she understands that we're men. And if she respects that line, why would I not? Who cares? She looks prettier to look at anyway. If they can look at it and she can tell people to do it and they do it faster, we just make sure she's safe. We just need to get whatever we need to get by the end of it. We'll always be men. That's the difference between a black man and other people. When you look at the history of African civilization, we're the ones that had the king sitting with the queen sitting right next to him at the same height. Why? We're not threatened by her doing well because we're going to still be the king. Like there's nothing that removes the power and the majesty of the black man. Or a real black man that knows that you're not threatened by anything. Right. And black women who respect and appreciate that.
He's a great black man.
You know he's a king.
He knows he's a king.
On the lion.
Yeah.
And black women outside the context of today, but historically, She wants him to be that. She's not trying to take that from him. She wants him to be that because she gets to enjoy that. I mean,
Absolutely.
when you're with a king, don't you enjoy life?
Yeah, yeah. And
Anything you want, you just say it.
That man, yeah, on that throne in that position, you know, and you will do whatever needs to be done to serve him to make sure that, you know, he maintains that position. And there's comments in the chat there about President Magufuli, who we touched on. And, you know, one of our sisters said, Sister Sheriff said, the deletion of Magufuli still breaks my heart. He was so intelligent and one step ahead of those Cro-Magnon Neanderthals. May he rest in power. Absolutely. Sheriff I feel the same way every time I think about that great man Magufuli. That's why I do, you know, constantly bring his name up, because for as long as we remember him, he still lives. He only dies when we don't call his name and when we forget him. But what a remarkable, incredible leader he was, accomplished so much in a short time, you know, that he was president, an example of what can be achieved. Just like, you know, Kwame Nkrumah, and all of what he managed to achieve in that short space of time as well, that he was leader. Kwame says that when Manley was in government, he had Nigerian doctors in the 90s there in Jamaica. Wow. Yes, indeed. So what does that say? That talks about the connectivity that was already there between Nigeria and Jamaica. Wow. Afrijamo, rise up, good to have you in the house. She says at Sheriff S, yes, sis, I call him Magafulicent, President of Africa. Yes, indeed. And you know, these people are so bodacious, aren't they? They just come in and take out our great leaders. I mean, they have, you know, you were touching on the economic politics, you know, and of course you can't touch on the economic politics without mentioning the economic hitman, who we all know so much about. And yeah, it's as if a lot of our leaders do have, you know, they shouldn't be allowed access to them. You know, these people shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the palaces, anywhere near their parliaments, anywhere near the presidential buildings. They should not be allowed anywhere near our leaders. And our leaders ought to know we have no friends. So when they go out, they don't eat people food. They don't drink people drinks, you know. Or like back in the days, they had people who would drink it first and test it first. But, you know, these are such easy traps that our leaders seem to fall into because they're belly not have no bottom, you know? So we're easy targets.
Yes, I'd like to show something because I want it's very much in line with the discussion we had right now. It's only 2 slides, but it was 3 or 4 slides, but they're very good slides.
Go ahead.
Okay, because I want people to see this because it's not all bad news. And when we're in war, a lot of times, sometimes we don't realize that we're in these fights. And so what's happening right now in Kenya, this is in Kenya because what they had was the British came in, and in the British embassy, they start waving the LGBT flag. This was in their embassy, but they did it on TV. The Kenyans have gone bonkers, which I love. I really appreciate this. Breaking news. This is from Electric Spark. Statement by churches in Kenya on the unfortunate incident at British High Commission in Kenya of hosting the LGBTQ flag and a call to action. So we go in, our concern over an incident at the British High Commission in Kenya. Listen to this strong language. As a country, we have a clear position on family values, beliefs, and worldviews. We have encoded this in our constitution and legislative framework. If the UK is willing to examine our instruments and our position, it is willing to respect our position, then in Nairobi's office would know that what the world has as LGBTQ plus and its associated flag is repugnant, offensive, uncouth, unpalatable, and unbecoming in Kenya context. Woo! We have in our possession the video evidence showing the hosting of the LGBTQ plus flag at the British High Commission in Nairobi by the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom. Any High Commissioner who serves in Kenya and who is aware that while the embassy is the jurisdiction of the UK and therefore fully under the control of the UK, the fact that Kenya has a strong position against LGBTQ and that Kenyans work at the embassy and staff and Kenyans visit the embassy would not have hoisted the LGBTQ flag as happened in Nairobi this week. This can only be interpreted as deliberate, considered, and calculated move to test our resolve, challenge our convictions, and stretch our hospitality as a country. I want y'all to hear that. I want y'all to hear that. Somebody is saying you're stretching our hospitality. When you say you're stretching my hospitality, that means you might not be able to stay. Listen to the demands. This is what I love about our people. This is what you call freedom fighting. They didn't say we ask. These are the churches in Kenya. They don't care what the government says. They're like, we the government. This is not going to happen. We demand and direct the following. In other words, we're not asking you. This is what you're going to do if you're going to be walking around on our streets in Kenya. That the UK acknowledges the negative impact this has created on Kenyans and offers a public apology to Kenyans. Saying you're going to apologize to us. Number two, that the current British High Commissioner's accreditation to Kenya is recalled by the president of Kenya, or that a petition is made to the UK to recall its current High Commissioner responsibility for this provocative act. So they're saying either our president is going to say it or your UK is going to say it, but it's going to get done. That Kenya's prime cabinet secretary and Minister of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs conveys this message of indignation to UK and subsequently makes a public statement on the matter indicating actions taken. You're going to say that you went and told the UK that this will not be tolerated, and you're going to come to us and tell us what you told them. That meanwhile, this statement be read in churches and a public statement be made to the media in Nairobi and across the 47 counties on the dates separately shared with churches across the country. They want a coordinated effort to put a middle finger up and let you know we are not going to talk, or a hatchet up, or machete. We're not playing with this LGBT agenda. That churches in Kenya, number 5, this is the last one, hold a daily prayer vigils on this matter and call for special prayers on the days set out in a separate communication until this matter is resolved to their satisfaction, and that they retain the action to physically send a delegation visit to the British High Commission and demand the actions above. In other words, we're going to send some people to your house to let you know that this is our house. This is Kenya. This is not Britain. You're going to do it. So I just wanted to show that so that people would know it's not that there's nobody fighting back. I hope that felt good.
Powerful. Oh my gosh, yes. Powerful letter there from the churches of Kenya. And when was that sent? Do we know what the response has been from the government to this?
This just came out on the 19th. So what is today? The 20th. It's only just been 3 days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, watch this space. But yeah, let's get that letter out there and circulating across social media. Because, you know, our people need to know and applaud, I feel, Kenya on the position that they've taken there. The cheek of it, the nerve, you know, in the face of the Kenyans who they know are opposed to that agenda. They're just going all out, aren't they, to try and, you know, feminize our men.
Well, remember, Kenya is connected to Uganda.
Yeah.
So what if we remember the flag of where the strongest resistance on the planet is to this LGBT, I want you to understand, brothers and sisters, they're not picking on Africa. They've defeated everybody else. The LGBT flag, remember, it is the Homo Judeo flag. I'm not exaggerating. They've defeated the entire world. The only region left is East Africa and other parts of the African continent. Now, the Sahel region, because they've made it clear in what we call One Africa, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, they made it clear, we're not accepting this homophile agenda. So we now have Africa being the last stand. I want you to hear what I'm saying. No one is standing as strong and firm, not the Arab nations, not even Russia. Russia's standing, but they're not standing this strong. The African nations are the #1 places, so we're the last stand on the planet, which is why we see now they're coming so hard at East Africa, because once East Africa breaks, the way they look at it, the Homo Judeo war is over. No one is left to resist. So we got to step in and help. Resistance is strong among our people. We should be proud that with all the militaries on the planet and all the thriving first world, second world nations, that what they would classify as the third world nations, we're the only ones that have enough decency and wherewithal to stand as men and women on civilization. No one is standing stronger. We should be proud and maintain our position.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Kwame saying Ruto is a coon, just looking in the chat here. He asked me what to do. I'm gonna try and get his okay, so we've got someone in the chat, Ami Man, and he's saying that he's pulling out someone in the chat to be pro LGBTQ. Well, that person's in the chat. They just need to say yay or nay and then end off, please, Ami Man. You know, so if this was the kind of conduct that you were carrying on with before, then yes, you know, I most certainly would have blocked you. So let's deal with this once and for all and end it right here. So the person can stand up and say, yeah, I am pro-LGBTQ, or no, I'm not. And that is end of, okay? Because, you know, I to be honest, I already know the answer that would come from that individual who is a loyal supporter on this platform. And I don't think, you know, has missed any of the Sister Shanice Show broadcasts, and is very clear about where they stand on these agendas. So I think you've got that one absolutely, totally wrong, Ami Man. Rise up the Jamaican junker in the house. Good to have you in the house. So yes, rise up. So maybe Sister Afajamo is not in front of her screen right now, but I'm sure as soon as she comes in, she will respond. Okay, yeah, as I said, Sister Afajamo, powerful sister in our community, you know, repatriated back to Africa, is there with the Rasta community doing the works on the ground, yeah, doing the works on the ground. And so, you know, she's definitely someone who I know doesn't support that agenda whatsoever. So I think you absolutely got that one wrong, beloved. Okay, wow, what's the time? We are 7 minutes away from the top of the hour. The time has absolutely flown by. You've just been shown just been told about what happened in the British Embassy in Kenya, and the response from the faith community, absolutely powerful, you know, and so I'm just hoping that that kind of vibrates across the continent, and that is a stance that is taken by you know, many other countries and the faith community in many other countries, including our own Caribbean countries as well. Okay, as always, you know, you bring some ground shaking, massive food for thought. I'm going to look at my notes to see if there was anything else that I pulled out of that House of Lords debate that they were having that maybe we haven't touched on, but I know that there was so much. Okay, yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because that they were saying, oh, we're in a bit of a dilemma, you know, because we're financing and funding these LGBTQ organizations, but we better stop doing it because, you know, they could end up getting the death penalty. The people who we're supporting could end up all being charged and getting the death penalty. So that was quite amusing, actually, that, you know, on the one hand, they're funding these organizations to do the campaigning work on the ground, to change attitudes on the ground. You know, they're paying people, young people to get involved in this lifestyle. And now they're realizing that in so doing, you know, those very same individuals that they're financing and representatives of those organizations that they're financing could face the death penalty. And so they're packing up now and closing down shop, as they ought to, and moving out. And the sooner they do that, the better. They're talking about the faith organizations being evangelical, you know, against this agenda as well. So they want to try and get into the faith community as well. And so it was really interesting that they've observed the faith community's position on this, you know, because one of the questions was, you know, well, what about civil society, the faith community, and what about, as you were saying, you know, maybe getting students organized, or you know the way they do. When we see some of these, what that tells us, doesn't that just tell us that when we see some of these protests that are happening on the continent, you know, we've really got to examine who the orchestrators are, what the agenda is behind it that's being pushed, you know, because through the media, through the universities, and through their funded organizations, we can see now, right from the Houses of Commons, you know, that what they're saying to do is to fund anti-government protests, to go against the government's position on this.
I tell you, the good thing that we have is, I mean, it's going to sound bizarre because many of us are seeing that we're not as strong as we used to be on it, but we're the strongest community on the planet on this issue. So what's important for us to understand, there's nobody for us to lean on. The world, weirdly enough, the world is leaning on us. Like, there's a lot of people who don't like this agenda. White, Asian, I'm talking about other people other than African people that don't like it, but they just don't have the strength. They're consumed. And this is the one thing that they actually, I was doing an interview in Iceland on a platform where the guy said, we've never interviewed anybody that wasn't white. You're the first Black person we've ever interviewed. And when I did it and I told them the position that President Museveni took on homosexuality, I just threw it out there. I said, if we did an international support for Uganda against the homosexuality, before I got a chance to finish what I was going to ask them, I'd be right out there. We'd organize our group and we'd be supporting it. I said, okay. Yeah, we don't like this stuff. I said, okay. There's a lot of people out there that don't like it. And without knowing anything about Uganda or any other African nation, when those nations stand up against this, we like them. Don't know anything about them, but we like them because they like this position. And so there's a lot more support. Russia likes it. There's a lot more support around the world. A lot of the Arab countries will appreciate it. These are people that we don't even necessarily get along with. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the fact on this issue, we're the strongest community in the world, and we need to stick our chest out and be that strongest community.
Yes, indeed. Okay, all righty. So we are coming now to the end of today's session. We are 2 minutes away from the top of the hour. Let's see what we got in the chat. You got saying those whites were overwhelmingly proud of Uganda. Yeah, okay, yeah. As our brother was saying, there are whites who are not for this agenda either. And in fact, yeah, what comes to mind is that there have been some campaigns by their own people against the books that they've been pushing in the schools, the sex education. Yes, they've been out there against the trans, teaching their children and telling stories to their children. Yes, there have been these campaigns, very much so, against it as well. So, irritated Judy, Ashe, they would say. Right. He-Man, Sister Shanice, was there. Have you heard anything about the new Initiative Party? I thought we were organizing as Marcus Garvey Jr. endorsed them. Yeah, I mean, the new Initiative Party in the UK came out in a big way. I haven't heard anything from them recently. We'll have to try and touch base and find out what's going on there. Okay, Sister Afrojamo, I don't know if you was monitoring the chat, but, you know, our brother He-Man, I think he was saying at one point that he thought that you supported the LGBTQ agenda. And I know you don't support an agenda like that. But anyway, can you tell us for yourself, if you're in the house, do you or do you not support the LGBTQ agenda, so that we can just put Ahiman, you know, and his claims to bed once and for all? Thank you so much. And to, you know, our regular people in the chat, like the Jamaican Jankro, Brother Kwame Aboje, who are very familiar with the comments that we often get from Sister Afrika Jamo, will know that what he's talking about is nonsense. What she did post earlier, Sister Afrika Jamo, is, has Ruto managed to fool Kenyans, or are they still behind him? Would be interesting to know. Let's close on your response to that question, please. Brother Aya.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. Based on some of the things that you put out there and things that are going on the ground, people don't understand how much impact things have. What I've learned on the African continent, people are more quiet and stealth in how they do things. I can tell you from being there, it's not speculation. People are having problems with what's going on, and they're trying to work on it. So that's all. That's as much as I can say and will say. This is not going unheard. People are seeing what's going on, and they're trying to work to do something about it. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. To the entire family in the house, thank you so much for your contributions to the discussions that we've been having today. Wow, some hard-hitting truths. And we got a real behind-the-scenes analytical kind of review of how we should interpret that conversation that they were having about one of our African countries in the House of Lords or in Parliament. Wow. That was one that we just got privy to. How many more of these types of conversations are happening behind closed doors on a daily basis? My beloved brother, I want to thank you so much, as always, for, you know, just opening our eyes, you know, and coming with the hard-hitting truths that we need to be aware of. And, you know, let's put it out there, you know, they're financing agencies on the African continent to encourage our women to abort tomorrow's generation. And many of our unborn young ones are ending up in their condoms. Family, we've got to see it for what it is. Part of the depopulation agenda. Sister Shanice out of here for now. Brother Aya Kamani, irritated Jeannie, more love, more strength, more power to you. To everyone in the house, in the chat, who's been following us, thank you so much. Sister Shanice.